Recently, I was speaking to my spiritual director, and I was grumbling. The bishops are oblivious to the implication of fiducia supplicans. And my spiritual director, in his usual manner, gently but sternly said, I don't think that's true, Marco. Don't say things that aren't true. There's a lack of courage, but not of understanding. Orthodox bishops understand the problem with fiducia supplicans. They simply choose a quiet peace rather than the courage to disagree. Maybe some bishops have conscientious reasons to remain silent in their criticism. But my question is, could the sort of not to cause more division reason be a noble excuse to skirt courage? Just a thought. We need courage to critique. We need more respectful, and I underline respectful here, honest criticism of Catholic leaders who misdirect the faithful. It's about being a mature disciple, to say, I love this person and I'm in conflict about what they say. That's okay. To begin, we need an empowered anthropology with vision and direction. Archbishop Charles Chaput said this in First Things, and I quote, the most urgent challenge that Christians face in today's world is anthropological, who and what a human being is, whether we have some higher purpose that warrants our special dignity as a species, whether we're anything more than unusually smart animals who can invent and reinvent ourselves. And yet, our focus for 2024 is a synod on synodality. He goes on to say, saying these things, of course, will invite claims of disloyalty. But the real disloyalty is not speaking the truth with love. And that word love is not some free-floating balloon of goodwill. It's an empty show without the truth to fill it. So we need true accompaniment. We need sound anthropology, for sure. Knowing who God made us to become establishes a direction for that accompaniment. Pope Francis' call for solidarity with weak people aspiring for more. Without a goal, we wander aimlessly together. We need a direction. And we need leaders with faith, faith-filled leaders, faith that disordered people can become who they are. That means chastity. Unchaste members of Christ need helpers with love and conviction and patience, unambiguous fathers and mothers of the faith who are willing to walk with us in the fits and starts of sexual integration. I need that. I need a clear direction. I need fathers to say this way, not that way. There's a big misuse of the word chastity. I see this all the time. People say chastity is sort of synonymous with abstinence. I see this with work like Eden Invitation, Anna Carter. Chastity has become misrepresented by so many Christians to simply mean abstinence from disordered sexual activity. For the same-sex attracted, that could sound like, I'm gay, but I'm not having gay sex, therefore I'm chaste. Not quite. Chastity, as outlined in the Catechism, means the successful integration of sexuality within the person, and thus the inner unity of man in his bodily and spiritual being. Sexuality, in which man's belonging to the bodily and biological world is expressed, becomes personal and truly human when it is integrated into the relationship of one person to another, in the complete and lifelong mutual gift of a man and a woman. The virtue of chastity, therefore, involves the integrity of the person and the integrality of the gift. Catechism, paragraph 2337. It's a great paragraph. Reread it. Chastity is much deeper than foregoing mortal sins. It's a virtue, at once a gift of the Spirit and a goal that becomes ours as we move from disintegration into wholeness. Homosexuality, effects of sexual abuse, addiction, misogyny, misandry, whatever your frustrated starting point and symptom may be, they're just mere symptoms of subterranean disintegration. Chastity requires shoring up the weak and wounded parts that frustrate sound gift giving. So we need insight into these areas. These common obstacles to chastity tend to be psychological and emotional. The Catechism says this: the psychological genesis of homosexuality remains largely unexplained. And many people take this to mean that, you can't take thoughtful insight psychologically into understanding what my same-sex attraction is. That doesn't mean that thoughtful insight isn't important in understanding my same-sex attraction. Same-sex desires possess underlying meaning that psychology can help elucidate. Now, the Catechism gives us a spiritual, theological, and anthropological track for our sexuality. It doesn't try to be a psychological manual, and thank God it's not. But we must fill in the gaps with thoughtful use of psychology that corresponds with that track. Now, I was tempted to suppress my sexuality as a same-sex attracted seminarian, and I wrongfully sought a sort of holy, sanctified asexuality that would resolve my conflict. In other words, my body is it gets me into trouble, so I'm just going to bypass my powers of life and love, my sexuality, my masculine sexuality, and I'm just going to go for like me and Jesus, you know? It's almost like a Gnostic claim, right? I'm going to sort of cut off any sort of association with this body so I can become a saint and white knuckle it. But the hard truth, my sexuality is capable and wired for sexual intimacy with a woman. It just is. That's just the biological reality. And I had to be courageous to shut the door on my fake approach to celibacy on the grounds of my same-sex attraction. I just think that's a fake approach. This sort of, well, I'm celibate because I'm gay is absolutely ridiculous. There is no trace of this in the Catholic understanding of the human person. And it's absolutely absurd to me that people stall here. I think it's a stall, really. I was made for more. You're made for more. And this requires the courage to be actually convicted with some truth of Jesus Christ, aligning that truth of the church's anthropology and my faith in Jesus, who helps me realize myself as who I am, becoming what I am, becoming more of who I am as a man, made for the other, made for woman. But, you know, we're wounded. I have to read this wound. I have to be mindful that I'm still a wounded man. And a gentleman who really helped me with this, his name is Dr. Joseph Nicolosi. Now, a lot of people in my sort of arena, my age, in this sort of, you know, healing world and stuff, they're so allergic to Joe Nicolosi, which I don't understand. But he really helped me understand my vulnerability to eroticize other dudes. I had no need to create an identity around symptomatic desires. Okay, I eroticize other guys. Does that make me gay? No. It's ridiculous to make that claim. I don't think you need to make that claim. I just needed to find a way through my disintegrated take on myself and other guys whom I sought to complete me. And I needed to read my wound and seek to close that divide in me and learn finally to connect with real dudes in real life without sexual thrill. It's like, it's good. It's really good. Joseph Nicolosi says this: two final qualities that are of the utmost value: patience with oneself and an acceptance of the ongoing nature of the struggle. Resolution of homosexual feelings is associated with the development of personal power. This guy's hardly coercive. Oh, he's a conversion therapist. He's going to contribute to my suicidality. That's ridiculous. Joe Nicolosi is thoughtful and empowering. I mean, this quote is just incredible. It takes real courage to be chaste. It takes courage to go against the flow of confusing churchmen with postmodern understandings of anthropology who would rather play it safe than true. Take a look at Preston Sprinkle, Eden Invitation, Revoice. But guess what? In pursuing chastity for what it in truth is, Jesus has restored my personal power. Gay identification and gay pursuits are disordered ways of discovering that power, even in sort of cloaked gay celibate stuff. I want the real deal. Jesus and his church guided me, and they still do. I'm grateful for the Nicolosis, the Comiskis, the Chapus, who have accompanied me into greater chastity. The courage of their convictions has become mine, and it can become yours too.